Oh, hey, y'all. It's your boy, B3, back with another kicking comic book review. Today we are reviewing the complete IDW Bigfoot limited series. It's 4 issues here. And, and they exist. It's by Steve Niles, Rob Zombie, and Richard Corbin. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a fan. I really wasn't a fan. The first issue was free digitally, so I was like, oh, I'll pick that up. And I did fall into their little trap. And I actually read it, and I didn't really like it, but I bought the other 3 anyways. So, Stephen Niles and Richard Corbin, those names don't really stand out to me, but I do know who Rob Zombie is. I haven't listened to his music, so I can't judge that. I assume it's probably good. But I really don't like him as a filmmaker. I feel like he uses the F word and other crass things as a crutch. I feel like his stories are dumb and bad. He casts his wife in everything because no one else will cast her because she is also not talented in that department. And I think he just isn't a good director, honestly. I feel like he's a true horror fan. I just don't feel like he's good at it. Sorry. But I'm sure his music is good. I mean, that's what made him famous, so it probably is. Anyways, this Bigfoot book, the art's really ugly. And when you're looking at Bigfoot and he has this gnarly, ugly face, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he's the monster of the book. So that's fine. But then the people's faces are also really ugly, and it doesn't seem like it's a stylized thing either. Because oftentimes from panel to panel, they'll look like different people, even though they're the same character. Which is bad. A lot of panels look like Mr. Pickle's Mama Named Me Sheriff characters, and that's not a joke. That's not an exaggeration. So it starts with this family that goes camping in a cabin, and the mom and dad are killed by Bigfoot, who busts in. But the kid is left alive and traumatized. And then we get kind of a flash forward to now. The sheriff has been covering Bigfoot killings up because he thinks it's better to just be like, oh, it's bears, instead of being like, oh, it's Bigfoot, because he feels like he can do more about it if people think it's bears, because if he says it's Bigfoot, no one will believe him and they'll, make him step down and stuff. The only part of issue 1 I really like, and it's actually my favorite moment in the whole series, it's this nightmare that the kid is having as an adult. And it's pretty horrific. So he's like at the mouth of this cave and he can hear his mom beckoning him to come meet his new daddy. And when he finds her, she's like an animated corpse that's like, say hello to your new daddy. And she's being fucked by Bigfoot, who turns around and says, hello, son. And that was pretty fucked. That was pretty horrifying. Then he wakes up from his dream, and that's where issue 1 ends. And then we get to issue 2. Issue 1 had a fine cover art, but issue 2's... none of these cover arts are really... they don't feel creative or anything. I don't know. They just feel standard. So, then in the next issue, the boy who grows up, whose name I don't remember because he didn't really interest me, he goes back to this town where the sheriff is covering stuff up because he's like, I'm not going to be able to move on with my life until Bigfoot's dead. And then there's just a bunch of scenes of like Bigfoot killing people that aren't poorly drawn. I mean, is this art better than anything I can draw? Yeah, but compared to like a lot of other stuff, I don't like this art at all. I just, I don't know. But yeah, that's the end of book 2. It's really just Bigfoot kills a few people, the sheriff covers some stuff up, and then, the guy decides to go to the town. Issue 3 is a bit more interesting because, this kid who's now grown confronts this sheriff. Bigfoot's killing cops now. It's getting even more out of hand than before. There's just tons of human bodies in a cave that Bigfoot's eating. The guy who goes to kill Bigfoot gets arrested because he gets pulled over, and then his vehicle is just full of all kinds of crazy weapons. And the sheriff comes to talk to him, and he's like, "Screw you, sheriff. You covered up Bigfoot killing my parents. You know it was them." And the sheriff's like, "My dad told me never to tell anyone about Bigfoot because they'd think I was crazy and it would ruin my life." And then, the guy in jail's like, "Hey, well, guess what? Bigfoot's ruining tons of people's lives and taking lives and all this stuff." And the sheriff talks about his encounter with Bigfoot. It's a bit more interesting. It's a bit more interesting, for sure. But then the sheriff lets him out of jail, and they strap a bunch of guns to themselves, and they're going to go fuck up Bigfoot. Huzzah. So, then we get to issue 4, the finale. So the sheriff, there's like a Bigfoot souvenir place because of all the Bigfoot sightings, and the sheriff blows the head off this Sasquatch totem pole that's there, which is destruction of private property. But the sheriff's like, "No more Bigfoot in this town." It was kind of dumb. And I was like, that sheriff's getting sued, for sure, right? So they find Bigfoot's lair because the cop that was killed had a tracker on him. They fight Bigfoot. It's a rough fight, but it seems to be maybe a bit easier than it should have been compared to all this other stuff that's happened. I don't know. But it turns out this Bigfoot's killing people to feed its mate and offspring. And that's that. So they make a bomb and they blow up the cave, and the Bigfoot troop gets crushed under rocks. And then at the end, when they're walking into the sunset, another Bigfoot shows up and pulls the corpses out of the rubble. And that's how it ends. Now, I'm kind of a Bigfoot aficionado. I love Bigfoot. Do I believe it exists? That's kind of up in the air for me, to be completely honest. I don't really have a definite answer for that because I don't really know. That's just my answer. I don't know. But I have absorbed a lot of Bigfoot media in my days, and this is just so bland and generic. It's such a bland, generic Bigfoot story. Bigfoot's killing and eating people. Okay. Oh, Bigfoot's doing it because it has children. I've seen that in multiple Bigfoot movies. Like Exists, for instance, which is a very fun Bigfoot found footage film that I really like. And I will say this. I'm glad it wasn't rapey. Because so much Bigfoot media seems to be rapey. And it makes me so uncomfortable. That's the one thing that I can't handle in my movies and TV and stuff is rape scenes. They're disgusting. But it's Bigfoot Wars, the film, not the books. And Bigfoot County, these films that just rely on rape instead of story. It's disgusting. And for some reason, people who make Bigfoot films are attracted to that. I guess just because Bigfoot films are often, since it's just it's the most popular cryptid, everyone knows about it. A lot of just trashy filmmakers end up making Bigfoot stuff. And, I mean, come on. There's so much interesting Bigfoot stuff out there that was done with little to no budget. Like the Lost Coast tapes. That's probably my favorite Bigfoot movie. I love it. Or you could look at Hunting the Legend, which has a scene where you hear Bigfoot speaking Latin in this deep, monstrous voice, and you're like, wait, what the fuck is that? And then they never explain it, and it's like so interesting that you're still thinking about it afterwards. And then there's like Willow Creek, and there's like this naked woman in the woods, and it's like, what does she have to do with Bigfoot? You know, and then there's like movies where Bigfoot's made by aliens and blah blah blah. There's just so much unique stuff that's been done with Bigfoot. And then you have this comic series made by horror quote unquote icon Rob Zombie, and it's incredibly generic. The nightmare in the cave was absolutely horrifying. I will give you props for that. That was a horrifying scene, and it was really well done. And I liked how it was drawn for the most part, except the kid's face. Other than the kid's face, the rest of it was drawn really well. But the art, for the most part, is bad. And the story is incredibly generic. There's like no real... I don't know. You remember when I reviewed the Pumpkinhead comic a while back, and I was like, this could have maybe been good if there was, you know, more than like 4 issues. You could have fleshed it out, and there could have been character progression and, you know, things that good stories typically have. And this Bigfoot comic felt like that. Like, maybe it could have been something if it was longer. Maybe we could have had a more unique motivation for Bigfoot. Maybe we could have had real character progression. I guess the sheriff has a change of heart, but it's like immediate and almost doesn't feel earned. And that's not a bad scene either, but it's not like at the end of it you're not like, yeah, go get that Bigfoot. You're just like, okay, sheriff's with him now. It was just a subpar story from a subpar quote-unquote horror icon. And then 2 other guys that I've never heard of. So that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll see you all next time.